Hey gang, I just wanted to, I hope this video finds you well. I just wanted to do a quick wrap up and kind of set the stage for week 8 of what happened this week. So we had the case study this week, and I just wanted to give you my 2 cents. I don't know if it's of value to you or not, because there did seem to be some kind of disagreement, especially initially on that shoulder, that I would like to comment on. So there are really no right or wrong answers, although I did, when I was looking at these, needed to see you go down a certain road. So we have this woman who has a traumatic event, who is also going through a stressful time in her life, and she is dealing with a variety of different things, some psychosocial issues, and she has presents with some yellow flags, and she has these three problem areas, we'll call them. And we've got the shoulder, we've got the neck, and we've got the wrist. And for the most part, everybody agreed that problem 2 and 3, I'll just go there quickly because that's where everybody agreed, were easier to fix, and they were probably, relatively speaking, based on the presentation in the objective exam, they were probably deeper veins of the wrist. Now, there could be some radial nerve entrapment, so I'll certainly give people that, because that certainly could have been it. And then we had some hypermobility in the cervical spine. It totally makes sense, especially after a traumatic event on that side. And for the most part, everybody got that, right? Like, everybody was totally on board with those issues. Now, shoulder was kind of a different story. And what I found interesting was, so obviously it's hard. This is not an easy thing. And I get that. And you certainly want to see this patient and be able to put your hands on them and see how they respond and interact. And so that it makes it challenging to get the information that you want. However, I would argue that based on the information that we covered, there should have been some perhaps more clearer paths forward. And I guess what I was looking for, so certainly you could have had a partial rotator cuff tear, but at the age of 45, or whatever her age was, in her 40s, I would be less inclined to think rotator cuff tear. Usually, you rarely see a rotator cuff tear under the age of 40, and between 40 and 50 is very sketchy. And maybe that's just because people accommodate. I think in my 17 years of rehabbing, I think I've seen one rotator cuff tear under the age of 40, and he was 34. It was a traumatic event, and even the surgeon was questioning whether it would be to his benefit to have the surgery done. You just don't see that. I always tell my residents and my fellows, it's over the age of 40, you think rotator cuff tear. Under the age of 40, you think labral tear. But even with labral tears, the vast majority of people, even if you have them over the age of 40, conservative management is a very effective approach moving forward, because unless you're a baseball player or baseball pitcher, or maybe some kind of overhead athlete, maybe you're a volleyball player, tennis player, and competitive tennis, not doubles on the weekends and that kind of thing, you can, for the most part, it is inconsequential. Some of this stuff we have created to be problems. And so I guess I would take umbrage with some of the assumptions that this was a labral tear problem, and that you could even figure that out with the way this patient was presenting because of the acuity of her pain, right? She was super sensitive, everything hurt. But I would argue, and so your special tests, again, are not so special because they aren't going to tell you very much. I would argue, though, based on her age, her gender, her pre-diabetic kind of position currently, as she is pre-diabetic, the fact that she has limited motion, has a traumatic event, has capsular end feel, these would all point me down a adhesive capsulitis path. And so I guess I just want to say that, I understand that you could make some arguments going in other directions, but I did want to see people recognizing that adhesive capsulitis is something that, for me, stood out and should stand out to you too. Now, some of you had said maybe you haven't seen a lot of this. I get that. Totally get that. But I want you to recognize this, because we start strengthening these people, doing scapular strengthening, rotator cuff strengthening, and for a frozen shoulder, it's not going to do anything. And you might even argue that joint mobilization, so there's people who threw in grade 1, grade 2, and you could even manipulate thoracic spine and cervical spine, which is all good. But depending on the acuity, and this woman's acuity, I don't even know if we're going to get there. She may be an injection candidate. A couple of visits, see what happens, move forward. I was really glad to see that people brought in P&E, right? Or T&E, depending on what you want to call it. So I wanted to see that as well. This woman definitely needed to be talked to. And, probably even more be talked to. She needed to be listened to. She needed to be heard. She needed empathy so that she could trust whoever was going to be working with her. Because it wasn't going to be easy moving forward. And if she thought you were just going to make her worse, she wasn't going to come back. So I guess my take on this, and so some of you really clued into that, and some of you didn't, and some of you may not have even recognized that this was the place to put it in. I think it is, and we want it to be part of everything that you do. So we're going to stress it. But certainly she could have had a rotator cuff tear, a partial tear. At that age, her likelihood of having a massive cuff tear was pretty low, but you would have seen that. Some people had a positive infraspinatus test. Well, the positive test only means that there's kind of pain reproduction. She didn't have a drop arm test. She doesn't have, and she's got guarding. And so then there was also the question of, well, could it be a thoracic outlet? Or she was just, everything just hurt. That's why in this situation, special tests are totally worthless because you're not going to find out much because it's all going to be positive. You're going to get too many false positives. So I just wanted to put my 2 cents in as to what I was thinking and how I was viewing this patient and how I think she needed to be viewed. I think, grade 1, 2, mobilization, you can handle more, great. Codman's great. Active assistive, active range of motion for her needed to be, some kind of table slide or wall walk. She needs to get moving. If she can't tolerate it, you can go to Codman's. You can certainly do some scap stuff. You can certainly do some neck mobility stuff. But that shoulder is going to be a challenge. And she needs to understand what pain represents. So, that was my take on that. And so if you have any questions or any pushback on that, certainly feel free to shoot me an email. I know I've got the pulpit here and no one else can really respond. It's the worst for me, so I can just kind of spout off. But if you have comments, feel free to send them my way. Okay, so enough of that. I always enjoy this. I hopefully you guys do. I enjoy the case studies. I use them in my continuing education classes that I teach. I was just teaching a course on Tuesday night for the Minnesota APTA on tendinopathy, and there's a tendinopathy series that we're doing, and we were using some cases to help kind of talk about what is important. And I'll be at the U of M this week, and I use case studies to kind of help kids understand or students understand management of these problems. Not tendinopathy, but and I think it's a good process to work through. So week 8, hand and wrist disorders, posted by Sunday. Get them in tomorrow night. If you get them in sooner, great. I'm going to do my best to start to engage because, like I said, I have 3 lectures next week that I have to do, and so I'm going to try to get in on Sunday before so I can so I don't have so much to do and butt up against the lectures that I have at the U next week. Discussions to follow. Obviously, please get in. Evaluations of the course when you're done at the end on Saturday. Please do an eval. You can't get your stuff until you can't get your grades. I don't think until you get the eval done. I will be blocks 1, 2, and 3 are in, plus your case project grades are in, and I will be posting obviously block 4, and I'll be sending out comments to follow. I'll do my best to just kind of give you a little heads up on if you're looking to improve in any ways, or if you have any things you want to talk about in the future. Grades or future classes or what have you, you can follow back. You can comment back, reply back to me with the email I send you out at the end of the 8 weeks. I do want to continue to thank Scott. I think he's done a great job. Hopefully you all feel the same, and certainly give him props during the eval process. He'll be taking Group Charlie for week 8, and I'll be with Alpha, Bravo, and Delta. So if there are any comments or concerns that you need to reach out to me beforehand, please do so. Otherwise, I look forward to seeing you guys all for this last week. Finish strong. Let's continue to engage wrist in hand. Don't use the cop-out that, well, I never see these people. Okay, don't do that. Engage, think critically, think deeply. Go find literature to help support your thought process. If you don't see them, I get that, but let's go beyond that. If you did see them, what would you do? Okay, so see you all in Moodle. Otherwise, enjoy your weekend. It's a beautiful day here in Minneapolis, and I look forward to getting outside. Take good care. Bye-bye.